Okay, I think we are started now. Welcome, everybody. If you wouldn't mind, just to make sure we don't have technical difficulties. Oh, I already see people saying hello, so that tells me that you can hear me. That's good. And hopefully you can see my screen too. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm excited about the presentation today just because the text message part of SalesNexus is something that we've had for over a year now, and we've been using it and learning, how to do it right. And still a lot of customers that have not used it, and I think it's mostly because people are a little unsure and uncomfortable about what's appropriate and how to use it and things like that. And so that's the main thing we wanted to address today. I think we have today a combination of customers of SalesNexus as well as non-customers. And so for those of you who are not already a SalesNexus customer, don't worry. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about how to do things in SalesNexus. Mostly this is about just best practices in text marketing, regardless of what platform you want to choose. And we'll have some information at the end about how you can get started with SalesNexus if you want to. Okay, so a couple of things, a little housekeeping. Number one, if you haven't already seen it, notice the chat in the meeting window. That's a great place to ask questions and make comments and things. I'm joined today by, well, let me go to my next slide here and I'll introduce myself and Russia. I'm Craig Klein, first of all, CEO of SalesNexus. And I'm joined by Russia, who is on our marketing team and gets a lot of the credit for today's meeting. Russia helped. We're trying out this new webinar platform, Demio. So far, so good. Love to hear you guys' feedback about that. But Russia helped us find it and set it up and also created these beautiful slides that you're going to see today. So thank you to Russia. But also, Russia's going to be watching the chat so that as I'm going through things, if you guys have questions, she'll be there to answer and provide a little more detail if I'm skipping over stuff that you'd like a little more info on. So make sure and speak up if there's something that you need that we're not getting into enough specificity on. And then finally, you will get a recording of today's webinar later on. Not off the top of my head, I'm not even sure if it'll be today or tomorrow, but by tomorrow, you'll get an email with a link to the recording of the entire presentation. Okay, so next thing is, Russia, I guess we have a poll that we want everybody to give us a little information. So let's go ahead and start that. And if you guys can just quickly tell us a little bit about your experience with text messaging, that will, help us know how in depth do we want to go, or keep it real, sort of beginner level. It looks like most of you guys are true beginners at this, so that's good. You're in the right place. We're hoping that what we can do is help you feel comfortable with taking the first step or two and beginning to experiment with this. And I'll tell you a couple of stories as we go about some customers that have been doing text messaging, text marketing with SalesNexus for a while now, and how they use it and what it's doing for their business. The good news is it's really not hard and it's super effective. Okay, so yeah, it looks like 71% say they have never used text marketing before. So like I say, that's kind of what we've designed the presentation for today. All right, so here's the main thing. This is what it's all about right here. We all know about email marketing, right? And here's the benchmark numbers for email marketing. You're going to get a 20% open rate in the email world is what we call it, and a 2% click rate. So that means, you send out your email to a list of 1,000 customers, and 200 of them are going to even look at it, right? I'm not going to get into why that is. It just is. 2% will look at your email and read it and click on whatever it is you're wanting them to do. Go to your website, sign up for something, go to your Facebook page, whatever that is. Only 2% are going to actually do what you're hoping they will do, which means you got to have a really big list to do anything significant, right? And depending on the business you're in, that can be hard, right? You may not be in the kind of business where there's just 50,000 customers out there. So email marketing is its own animal. Those are what the typical industry benchmarks. And then you look over here at text messaging. 98% get viewed. I mean, right there, that's a win. Boom. And 15% get clicked. Again, so it's not 100%. It's not, you can't think of this as, well, I have 100 new customers this month and I want to text them about this special offer and I'm going to get 100 orders or 100 upgrades. That's not the way it works. You're going to get maybe 15 upgrades or orders or whatever, but that's a lot better than 2, right? Now, when you combine these two things, text and email, that's when things really start to work. But today we're going to try to keep it pretty simple and stay focused on just getting started with texting. So there's a lot of ways to use text marketing. Depends on the kind of business you're in, of course. We've all, as consumers, we've seen the instant coupons and rewards and things like that. There's a reason people do that, because it works. So if you're in the kind of business, retail business, an e-commerce business, something like that, this is where you should put some energy. Reviews after the sale. That's also a super straightforward and super powerful way for people to use text marketing. Think about it like this, right? When you're closing a sale, you might be all over that customer. You're sending them lots of emails. You got salespeople calling them. You're covering them up, right? And then all of a sudden they sign up, and they may have also gotten a little bit of fatigue from all the emails you've been shooting at them, right? So you send them another email after the sale and ask them to review you. Well, you're only going to get a 2%, response rate on that best case scenario. So you use a text message instead, and you're going to get a lot more reviews. And we all know what that can do for your business, right? Obviously, just staying in touch with customers is a great way to use it too. New products you're rolling out, events that you're doing, asking for reviews, customers that have kind of gone cold on you and haven't ordered anything in 6 months or a year or whatever. Text messages can be a way to do that. And then there's B2B sales. A lot of SalesNexus customers, that's a big part of what they do, is salespeople getting customers on the phone. And a text message can be an excellent way to do that. You're going to get a better response rate. You'll get better response to your text messages than you do to your voicemails, for sure. So, think about it. If you got somebody sitting there on the phone all day just making outbound calls, making hundreds of calls a day, well, if you teach them to stop leaving voicemails and then set the system up so that it sends everybody a text message, say the next morning or something, you're saving them time, so you could probably double the number of calls they make, and you're going to get more responses. So it's kind of a no-brainer. So here's the $1 million question, right? Because everything I said so far is true, but so the question is, why aren't you already doing it, right? Well, it's the big part of it is you're afraid that you're going to really piss off your customers by sending them all these text messages, right? That's what we hear a lot from customers. So I think the easiest way to answer this question is it annoying to you when you are interacting with some vendor, some brand, when you buy something and they send you text messages? Does it annoy you? I mean, we all have our own answer to that question. Personally, it can annoy me, but most of the time it doesn't, right? In other words, I just spent some money with you. So if you want to send me a text message and say, hey, Craig, what'd you think? Is there anything we can help with? I'm not annoyed by that. That's helpful, right? If I've never heard of you before and you send me a text message, that's a little different story, right? So I think, it's all in context, right? But you see the number there, 77% of customers have a more positive perception of businesses that are using text message marketing. So what that is saying is that unless you are really just abusing the privilege of having somebody's mobile number and sending them a text message, what the impression you're making on your customers is that you're better than your competitors because you're using text messages. You're more sophisticated. You're more focused on them and communication with them. So it's a positive, net, right? Now, the other question is that might be, sort of holding you back is it legal, right? What's the law around all this? Which is important, of course. Frankly, it's pretty simple at a practical level. It's the same principles apply in the email world. However, the laws that govern it are different. And you can find a lot of people out there that kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, they try to scare you and make you think it's really fraught with all this legal trade-offs and liability and everything else. And really that's because they're trying to sell you something. It's not. You can go look at the law if you want. It's called the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Google it, read through it. It's not super long or crazy or anything. There's a lot of stuff that's not really related to, can I send my customer a text message, is more technical stuff. But in terms of just practical sending your customers a message, what it really comes down to is you got to get their consent. So that's the fundamental difference, legally speaking, between email and text. With email, the law does not require you to have an opt-in. That's kind of a best practice, of course, but it's not legally required. With email, you're legally required to make it easy for them to opt out. So that's the kind of thing that, in the SalesNexus system, it does automatically, right? They can click the unsubscribe button. With text messaging, legally speaking, you cannot send them a text message unless you have their written consent. And when I say that, you can't send an automated or mass text message. Obviously, just sending somebody a text message on your phone, that's a different story. So you got to get them to opt in. So it's really it's not as big a deal as you might think. When they sign up on your website, your privacy policy, your terms of service can say that they're agreeing to receive text messages from you. If you want, when they fill out something on your website, it can come up and say, or there can be a checkbox, I agree to receive text messages, blah, blah, blah. You can be, let's say, subtle about it, or you can be more upfront about it. But either way, legally speaking, you're covered as long as they somewhere agree to receive text messages from you, and then you're good to go. So in general, with customers, it's not a problem. With people that come to your website and fill out a form to sign up for something, not a problem texting them going forward until they say stop, right? And then you have to honor that. If you're buying lists and things like that, that's where it's an issue. So that's where emails and text can work together. Send them emails to get them to opt in, and then you start texting them, right? Okay, so here, just some examples of text messages and what you might do. Here's a coupon, a coupon code that they can put in your shopping cart system on your website, and they're going to get a discount, right? Here's a text message about getting a review, right? Just a link, and they click it, and it takes them to some review portal, and they put in their review. You can see, whoops, both of these have the, hey, if you want to stop, here's how you opt out, right? For a B2B lead, what text message? Yeah.
We've got a lot of questions. Oh, a couple of questions actually about leads.
Okay.
So we've got a question here. What do you think is the best source to find cell phone numbers? We've got Zoom Info, Lucia, or do you provide such data? And all text messages is based on having mobile phone numbers, right? What are ways to acquire mobile phone numbers?
Yeah, that's the magic ingredient. Well, okay, so it depends on the industry. In some industries, there's sources of, great sources of information about those customers. But other than those specific industries, like for instance, if I'm in the mortgage business, if I sell to realtors or even to mortgage brokers, then I can go to a couple of different industry places and get lists that are really accurate and all, kept up to date and all of that, right? But in general, we work with Ramped Up, and that, we've been doing this for almost 20 years now, not the texting, but emailing and selling for almost 20 years. And we've worked with all of them, Zoom Info, Info USA, Discovery.org, all of them. And the reason that we're working with Ramped Up now is because they validate their data in a couple of different really important ways. Number one, they're keeping the data up to date by monitoring all the contacts' LinkedIn profiles. So they're going to see when you take a new job, they're going to see your title change or the company you work for has changed. And that triggers them to go do the research and update their database. So that's number one. Number two, they're validating the emails when you download them. And Ramped Up does have mobile numbers. It's not 100% coverage or anything like that. And that's the bottom line. Again, if you're not in one of these industries where there's like a specific source for that industry, you're not going to get 100% coverage. And that's why you got to have a multimedia strategy, right? Some people, you might only have their email. Some people, you might only have their office desk phone. Some people, you may have their mobile phone, right? And you got to be able to communicate with all of them, But and we'll talk about this a little more later. There's ways that we can take a list that you have now and infill mobile numbers for the people, for at least some of them. And I would say typically it's going to be, a 30 to 40% hit rate with mobile numbers. So that's not bad. And again, thinking about the fact that you're getting a 15%, click through or response rate, 30 or 40% of your list adds up to some serious business, right? So let's see. I was just going to go into this example of a B2B text message. What it's great for is I'm trying to get somebody on the phone to talk to them, right? Well, hey, I just called you, couldn't reach you. When's a good time for me to call? That's my favorite way to use this, because people just respond, right? Especially if they want to talk to you, they have an interest in your product or service. It's just you call them at a bad time. So it's convenient for them to just quickly say, call me tomorrow at 3. Boom. Okay, got it. I will. Simple. Let's see. The other thing you can do is you can actually put a link in your text message to a Calendly type system. That's what we use, which is one of these scheduling thing. It integrates with your calendar, and it'll let them book an appointment with you at a time that you're currently open on your calendar. So that's super convenient for everybody concerned. So that's a great thing to try. A few things that you just want to keep in mind when you're doing your text message, when you're creating your text messages. Number one, less is more. That's true with everything, email especially, and text message. Don't send them a book, don't copy and paste something out of an email even and say, okay, I'm just going to text the same thing. It's too long. 140 characters should be your limit. You don't want to put big long URLs in there, because that just, you don't have a lot of screen space to work with there, right? So use a URL shortener like bit.ly or something like that. And you want to keep it really focused. So that's, in terms of tone, I think that's the part that people struggle with a little bit is, in some businesses, when you send someone an email, you want to be very professional, right? Dear Mr. So-and-so, and you're using very, excellent grammar and all of that. And it might end up being a pretty long email as a result. And that's appropriate in some cases. With a text message, it's just a different medium, and people don't want a lot. The whole beauty of text message is that it's short and sweet, right? That's why people read it and respond to it, because it's easy for them, right? The reason we dread looking at our email inbox is because there's all this stuff we got to read, right? And who's got time for that? So don't do that to their text message inbox, Respect the fact that it needs to be short and sweet. So you want to be really on point. If you're trying to get somebody on the phone to talk to you, say that and give them a way to make that easy. If you're trying to tell them they can sign up and get a discount on something, just get right to that point. Don't tell them how wonderful the product is. Just say, hey, if you want a discount on this product, here's your code. Go. The other thing you can try is use your company name in the email. Some people try to, I think the instinct is to make it personal by trying to make it seem like you're sitting there on your phone texting them, right? So you're texting more as an individual. But sometimes what's lost for the customer is, okay, Bob, who do you work for? So make sure you're making that clear. And then use videos. You can see how that looks here, right? When you put in even, in one message, you put some text and then a link to, say, a YouTube video. It's going to show up like this on their phone. So that by itself is a nice little branding impression, right? Plus, people like videos, and they're going to watch videos. They're going to click on videos at a much higher rate than they will just a general link to some page on your site or something. So it's worth using. I did a little research in preparing myself just to see, what do other people recommend as good sequences and things for B2B leads. And One of the ideas that I really liked the most was making it really granular like this. So these are individual messages. This is not all one message that we're going to send them all at once. Hey, Adam, I saw you signed up for, I'm putting together my schedule. You know, that would be my instinct. So I'm going to put all that in one simple message, right? The idea that I saw a lot of people talking about, and I really like it, and I'm going to be trying it, is just say, hey, Adam, and you wait for them to respond. So you're going to send out, you know, maybe 1,000 text messages. Well, we're talking about leads. So if you got 1,000 leads every day, good for you. You probably don't need my help. But let's say it's 10 leads a day, right? So you send out 10 texts. Hey, Adam, or hey, Mr. Customer. And, you know, maybe 2/3 of them, half of them respond and say, hi, or yes, or, you know, what can I do for you, or whatever, right? And then the next message is, I saw you signed up for so-and-so and so-and-so. And then the next message after their response is, I'm putting together my schedule and here's my calendar link and all that. Or are you still interested in? And so it's more like a conversation, right? Not just one big bleh, you know? I really like that. I think that makes the most sense. It creates more of a funnel with your text messages. So not everybody's going to go all the way through the whole sequence, right? Some, you lose their attention, lose interest, whatever. But the people that go all the way through this conversation with you and have 4 or 5 texts with you, well, that's some serious engagement. So now you know, here's the people I should really get focused on, you know? A few more best practices. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but, you know, just get to the point and speak to their needs. Don't talk about yourself, right? Don't tell them, hey, I'm with SalesNexus and we're a CRM and marketing automation system and blah, 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 blah. Hopefully the fact that I'm texting them in the first place, they already know that. What I want to say to them is, I know you're looking for ways to text your customers. Or are you looking for ways to text your customers? You know, in other words, speak to their problem, their need, not what I'm selling or doing. You know, here's some examples of that. We're offering 20% off. Everybody likes a discount. Your next vacation just got 20% better. That's a little bit better way to say it, right? Because we're offering a 20% discount on, you know, a hotel stay or something like that, right? Because we're putting them in the mind of their experience of the product, not what the transaction that we want to have with them. Okay, so a few things for those of you who aren't already using SalesNexus. When you go out to look for a tool to do this, some things you need to keep in mind. Number one is, can you easily manage multiple segments and lists? And can those be dynamic? You know, in other words, I might have a list of people that signed up on my website this month, and I want to start texting them. Okay, that's pretty simple. It's one list. But as soon as I start texting, that list will turn into several different lists, right? I'll have the ones that responded and in some positive way. I'll have the ones that said, leave me alone, don't ever text me again. And I'll have 2 or 3 things in between, right? And I need to then have different sequences for those different little segments, right? And then I got new leads coming in the next month, and all of those lists keep ebbing and flowing and changing and growing, right? And the system needs to be able to keep up with that without it turning into a full-time job for somebody on your team to sit there moving people from one list to another. That's the problem that you run into with a lot of systems. They make it seem real easy because, yeah, you can load in a list and get a text message out. So if you're trying to, send a blanket text out to raise money for some politician or something like that, a lot of tools out there that are great for that. But if you're actually trying to have a relationship with a customer and a conversation with them, it gets a little more complicated, and you need a tool that's going to support that. You want to be able to mail merge, right, and personalize it so your text message doesn't say, "Dear Mr. Customer," it says, "Dear Bob." You want to be able to use dynamic and trackable links, so some systems kind of have their own link building thing within them that has its own limitations. You want to be able to build your own links, how you build them, how you like to track what's going on your website, and use a little shortener and put the link in there and be able to track the traffic to your website that comes from these text messages in the same way you would track all the rest of your traffic. And you want to be able to automate things in customizable ways. Again, the way I might want to automate things if I'm trying to raise money for a politician is going to be different than if I'm trying to automate a lead process for a business, right? A B2B sales process. I might, when you sign up for a web, or you sign up on my website, I might send you a text message right away, but I also probably am going to send you an email, and I might also have a sales guy call you later that same day or the next day or whatever, right? Well, if the sales guy gets you on the phone and he learns a whole bunch about you, well, that information that he learns needs to change the text messages that customer is going to receive, right? Because you don't want the customer to get a message the day after they spoke to the salesperson that says, "Thanks for becoming a customer," and treats them like we don't know anything about them, right? You want it to reflect that now there's a relationship, we know some things about you, and we're using that information to customize the communication that we're having with you. So those are just a few things to keep in mind. For those of you that are SalesNexus customers, the good news is we can do all that. In fact, we're going to, real briefly in a few minutes, I'll show you how. Now, you guys were asking about this earlier. Let's touch on it a little more. List building. There's a few things that SalesNexus can do, and there's other options out there. What we've done is we've selected the tools that we feel are the best. May not be the cheapest always, although they're not the most expensive by any stretch, but they're the best. You're going to get the best results. And that starts with accuracy, right? Whether it's emails or text or mobile numbers or anything else. So there's tools that we use to cleanse your list so we can validate email addresses and things like that, and identify the people that that email's no longer good. So that means probably they don't work there anymore, and all of your information about that customer is invalid unless you have a mobile number, in which case they probably still have the right or the same mobile number, right? But the other thing that we can do that's relevant, oh gosh, sorry guys, I just hit my mic and knocked it over. I hope that didn't break everybody's ears. I hope you can still hear me. The most important thing relevant to this discussion is that we can take an existing list, whatever you have, with emails, not emails, whatever, and we can do what's called an append. We're going to try and match it up to the ramped up database and add missing information to your list, right? So if you don't have their physical address, for those that we match, we can provide that, or their office phone, or their LinkedIn profile, or their Facebook profile, their title, the revenue of the company, their mobile number. And then the other thing that can be really powerful is you take your list of, say, customers, And so these are the people that you know like what you do and are willing to pay for it. And we load that into Ramped Up, and it analyzes it, and it will fill in that list with missing information like we just talked about. But also, it will then come back and say, hey, also, we have 10,000 people in the database that fit the same exact demographic profile of your customers. That's a super valuable list, right? And a lot of them will have mobile numbers. So that's a really, if you're a SalesNexus customer and you haven't done this yet, it's time to do it because it's a no-brainer. I'll show you what I mean here. Okay, here's your list, right? I got first name, last name. Sometimes I got the company and the title, and I got emails. I don't even have phone numbers, right? Like, so maybe this is a bunch of people that signed up for a webinar that you did, or they signed up for something on your website where all you were asking for was their name and email. So what can you do, right? You can't call them, you can't text them, you can't go see them. All you can do is email. Well, you take that list, we load it into Ramped Up, and we do the append that we talked about a minute ago, and it comes back like this. Now I know all of their companies, all of their titles. I know if the emails are valid or not. I sometimes get their personal email as well. Now I got their mobile number. You see here, direct dial phone number, and then what kind of number is it? Sometimes it's not always the mobile number, but in this case, it's all mobile. And I got their LinkedIn profile and a whole bunch of other stuff that we won't get into here. Let's see, I see somebody asking what's a catch-all. It's hard to explain. I don't want to burn a lot of cycles on it right now, but it's a type of email that's when the email's set up so that if I send an email to, bob@yourcompany.com, but there's no Bob there, there's nobody with that actual email address, you can set up the mail server so that that email still gets sent to someone, like, it goes to, your main sales address or something like that. So you don't reject any addresses, right? You're taking everything and it's all getting forwarded to some generic email address. So it doesn't mean it's not valid. It just means that it may not be an actual person anymore, that there's no way to know if that person actually works there still. Okay, now here's an example of a sequence that one of our customers is using. He's in the real estate business, and he really uses the heck out of all the campaign capability in SalesNexus. And you can see this is, their sequence is multimedia, right? So they're sending out text messages, and they got tasks for somebody to go and check on things, and they got scheduling meetings and calls and all kinds of stuff. So the point here is when you really get, what am I trying to say? The step one here might just be create your first text message campaign. There's just one text that's sent to a short little list of people, and you just kind of see what happens and get familiar with the process, number one, and see what kind of results you get, because your customers are different than mine, right? But once you are walking and you're ready to start trying to run a little bit, where you really get things to the next level is where you have a sequence that's, emails and text and calls. And so you're reaching out to these people in all kinds of ways. And then you eventually learn which people want to be communicated by text message and which people want to be communicated with by emails, and you treat them that way. And just like we touched on earlier, when you respect the way people want to be communicated with, that's when you're really building a strong relationship with the customer. So just wanted to give you an example of, how a sequence can look. So now I am going to real quickly pull up SalesNexus and show you an example. Okay, let me pull this over here and see if I can. Okay, yep. All right, so you guys are seeing Matt Market here, I hope. So I'm not going to do a real in-depth demo of SalesNexus. So again, if you're not a customer already, go to our website and click on demo at the top, and there's more of a general overview. It's a short little video. But to get right to the meat of the matter, I want to create my first text campaign, right? So I go up here to campaigns and I say create campaign, and I give it a name, and I go down here, and right here where it says email, instead of choosing email, I just choose SMS. And then I hit add. And just like with emails, you can choose who the text is going to come from. So you might have, a separate account for each of your sales reps. And, if I want the text to come from the sales rep of that customer, then I just choose this here, the contact record manager. So that's the record manager is the owner of that customer. And then here I'm setting the sequence, so if it's a multi-step campaign, then I might want this to come on the 4th day, 0 means just send it out right away. Now I can create a new message, or I can use existing messages, right? So let me try and pull up an existing one here. I got my new hot prospect message, and there you go. So you can create a lot of different campaigns and reuse the same text message, so that's an easy way to kind of broaden the funnel, so to speak. But you see, it works. Otherwise, it works a lot like the email templates when you're putting text in your emails. You have your mail merge fields and your text, and that's really all there is to it, right? Over here, you can choose the mail merge fields. So let's just go back and create a new one, and I'll say, this is, maybe I want to have, wait, I'm going the wrong direction. I'm going to find the company field. The SalesNexus super duper widget or whatever, right? And I might want to go over here and change this and add the first name. So I'm personalizing it a little bit. And then if I want to put a link in the text, I just paste it in there. And when it's sent and received, the person who receives it will see that link, hyperlinked. And if it's a video, like we looked at earlier, we'll see the actual video. So that's it. It's pretty simple to create the message, and then you save it. And now that's in your campaign sequence, and you save your campaign, and you're ready to roll. I'll show you another example here. Oh, shoot, that's not what I wanted to do. Here's where I wanted to go. So here's one where I've already fleshed it out a little more, and it's more of a multimedia sequence, right? Text message, then an email, then a sales rep gets a reminder to call, and then another text and another email. And you see the sequence here. So if this is for a new lead on your website, right away, they're going to get a text message, and right away, they're going to get an email. And then 2 days later, your sales rep gets, all they got to do is be logging on and check their task list in SalesNexus, and they'll see it's time to call this new customer. And then after that, the day after, the customer gets another text, and then the day after that, they get an email. And of course, this sequence can be whatever you want it to be. Now, where this is all great. Again, step one, walk before we run. Let's create something like this. Maybe it's just one text message, and just send it out to a short little list of people and see what happens, because once you go through the whole process like that, then you'll start to see how things could fit together in a bigger sense. But when you're ready to run, we're going to create sequences like this. It could be just nothing but text messages. In some businesses, that makes sense. Or it could be a mixture like we have here. But then we're going to go over here and we're going to go to automation plans. And now we're going to start triggering these things automatically, right? So let's see. I want to pull up my new leads automation. And I'll just walk you through this a little bit. New contact and the field lead source equals website. So what that's saying is anytime a new contact is added to the database, if the lead source is website, then automatically trigger this campaign. And if I want to change that, and let's use the other one that we were just looking at. Now we're using that sequence. So basically in this case, whenever somebody comes to your website and fills out the form and they go into SalesNexus, boom, automatically they're going to go on this campaign. So they will get the automatic text message immediately. They'll get the automatic email immediately. That's all you have to do. So it's pretty simple, really. So when I save that, whoops, I forgot one little piece. You see here how it says running. When you're creating it up here, you check that. You can turn that off if you want to, not turn something on until you're really ready. But once it says running, then you're ready to roll. It's working. This next lead that comes in your website, they're getting the text and the email and everything. So it's really pretty easy. Remarkably so, especially given the power and the potential return. Now, one little detail. The way SalesNexus sends text messages is through RingCentral. So you need to have a RingCentral account if you don't already. We use RingCentral as our entire phone system. I highly recommend it for that. It's affordable and super robust in terms of the capabilities. You can see there's a lot of analytics. You can get call reports that tell you how many calls each person made. You can listen to call recordings, lots and lots of features that RingCentral has that I don't have time to get into right now. So it's worth considering for those reasons alone. But in order to send text messages with SalesNexus, you have to have at least one RingCentral account, one RingCentral phone number. So you can start a free trial of RingCentral, and then even if you decide to sign up after the trial's over, it's only $20 a month. So if you're going to send text messages for marketing, it's worth it. During your trial, you can send text messages through SalesNexus, so there's no reason not to try it out. Couple of questions that we often hear about RingCentral. Does it replace my existing phone system? It can, for sure. Even if you've got that old-fashioned system that you've had in the, computer closet for 10 years, it can do everything that system does. Trust me. But I should say, it doesn't have to replace your phone system. If you're not ready for that, you just want to use it for text, that's okay too. It's $20 a month. Can I use my mobile number? Yes, you can link it up with your mobile number so that when you're sending text messages through SalesNexus, when the customer gets it, it appears to have come from your mobile number. And if they reply, you're going to see it on your mobile number. You'll also see the replies in any case on the RingCentral app, which goes on your phone, which is great. And That's the way I do it. But some people just want to keep it simple and all their texts on their, text messages on their mobile phone. And you can do that with Ring Central. It takes a little separate setup that you have to do, but there's no extra charge for it or anything. Okay, so what happens next? If you're not already a SalesNexus customer, then start a trial of SalesNexus. In fact, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You're going to get an email that will have this link, and you can start your free trial. And if you put the referral ID equals text at the end there, we'll get you set up with all this stuff that you're seeing here. I'm going to put it in the chat here in a minute. Just give me a sec while I get the link. Yeah, so if you putting this in the chat right now, if you click on that link and go start your free trial of SalesNexus, we'll know that you want to get set up to text, and we're going to go ahead and set you up with a ramped up free trial. So you can do that list cleanup, that list append that we talked about. You'll get 500 free credits. And we'll set you up with a Ring Central free trial as well. So you'll have everything you need to get going. If you're already a SalesNexus customer, just put your email in the chat here, and we'll keep a record of that and make sure we get you set up with ramped up and the Ring Central trial, because you've already got the SalesNexus piece, right? Let's see. I'm going to check the questions here real quick. Russia, anything that jumped out that we should address here before we wrap it up? Yeah, and there are some training videos on our site. So if you just go to salesnexus.com and then support, let me see if I can tell you more specifically where it is. Yeah, so if you go, let me just pull this over here so everybody can see it. So if you go to salesnexus.com, click on support, and then scroll down here to integrations, and then SMS texting campaigns. That's where you're going to see a little how-to that'll basically walk you through what I showed you here a minute ago, but in a little more detail. And of course, always use the little orange button in the bottom right when you're logged on to SalesNexus, and we'll be right there to help you out with any questions that you have. Let's see. Yeah, Brad's asking an important question I forgot to show there when I was demoing things. Exactly right, Brad. You do a lookup in SalesNexus. You look up some list of customers, all your customers or all your leads this month or whatever. And then you go add them to a campaign. In this case, the campaign is a text campaign instead of an email campaign or some combination of both. So you sort of start the process the same way. Okay, well, thanks everybody for all your time. Really appreciate it. I know you guys are super busy, and we really appreciate you taking time to get together with us today. And hopefully we can get you started with this. We're here to help you. If there's anything at all we can do to make it easy, definitely reach out to us, and we'll be here for you and help you start getting more responses with text messages. That's the whole idea. So let's get started. Just let us know how we can help. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.